Good morning. This is Monty once again, doing a a podcast. I haven't done in a while. I should do a little bit more often, but then again, I don't like to really chime in too often. Just I think that there's a lot of content out there. I put a lot of written content on my website under my own blogs, and there's a lot of information out there. And if people are interested, they can find information. But my perspective is, I think I try to be a little bit different. Maybe it's not. I don't know for sure. But let's dig in and let's see. This is the state of the Bitcoin or the crypto economy vis-a-vis the traditional economies. Now, what's going on? Why? And everything else. Let's get as much information as possible. Now, the traditional economies of the world seem to be taking a little bit of a hit as of late. Now, the question that a lot of people are asking is the coronavirus pandemic or threat, the threat of this pandemic, is that the pin that burst the bubble, or is there, are we missing the point? Excuse the noise. The traditional economies, in my opinion, have been fragile for a long, long time. And I'm really not happy with the idea that a lot of the Trump supporters, for instance, are totally ignoring the facts. The evidence seems to suggest that the traditional economy, not only of the United States, but elsewhere as well, they're very weak. Okay, there's massive money printing going on in the United States and outside the United States. That's indicative of weak economies. You typically don't print out hundreds of billions of dollars or trillions of dollars in fresh money in an effort to stimulate an economy that's already strong. And if you look at what one of the Fed governors just mentioned the other day, I think it was Clarendon. But anyway, one of the Fed governors just came out 2 days ago, and he clearly indicated that there would indeed be new rounds of rate cuts. I don't know if you looked at your the interest that you're earning on your savings and checking accounts, your money market accounts, but you can clearly see that they're disappearing. The returns are slowly going away completely. Okay, the interest on the 10-year Treasury, I think it was 1.1 or something. That is for the most part a reaction to this latest sell-off in the stock market, I have to admit. But the trend is what you guys need to pay attention to. If you constantly see interest rates going lower and lower and lower, and if you constantly see more and more money printing in the United States and outside the United States, you don't want to ignore that. Okay, I don't care what Trump says. I don't care what Mnuchin says. That doesn't matter. Okay, the trend is indicative of people who are trying to prop up and stimulate an economy that's obviously not responding. Okay, I don't know what you guys do for a living out there. If you bag groceries, if you make widgets, if you, I don't care what you do in a typical 9 to 5 job, ignore the idea that you may be getting more orders to paint cars or put hubcaps on tires or fix brakes or something. I don't care what you do for a living. Your particular situation may give you the impression that things are well and good, but they're not. Okay, and how does this correlate with what's happening in the crypto economy? Well, simply put, the crypto economy is looking more and more like a viable alternative for money a viable alternative for infrastructure development, a viable alternative for job development, and also for diversification in your portfolios, because we're seeing more and more that the uncorrelated behavior of Bitcoin and cryptos is actually good, and is actually becoming more and more evident. So as stocks go up or as stocks go down, we don't see any patterns that indicate that Bitcoin is following or reacting in an opposite manner at all. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, they seem to have a life of their own, okay, which is good. In a typical portfolio, you want to have some assets that behave positively to what's going on in gold or the markets or whatever, and then you want to have some assets that behave negatively in terms of what's happening in gold and oil and commodities or whatever the direction the market seems to be going into. You want to have things that offset each other. Right now, I can tell you that cryptocurrencies don't seem to have any correlation at all. So if you're listening to YouTubers, you guys in the crypto space, if you're listening to YouTubers or anybody else that talks about Bitcoin not fulfilling its promise of being negatively or positively correlated, unsubscribe to their channels, because they don't know what they're talking about. They're wasting your time. We do not want an asset class that mimics the others, either to the upside or downside. We want something that behaves independently of what's happening. Okay? In other words, I don't care if stocks, if the traditional stock market goes to zero or $10 million or 10 million points on the Dow. I don't care. I want something that's going to be independent regardless. And right now the crypto alternatives seem to give us that independent correlation. Okay, it doesn't care. So that's what you want. Something that behaves totally uniquely on its own to the upside and downside. That's called true diversification in a portfolio. Because all the algorithms and all the bots and all these things that are used on Wall Street, they look for those correlations and they take advantage of those correlations. But we don't need it and we don't want it, not in the crypto space. So you can't program a ton of bots to sell off or buy into or anything depending upon what's happening in the crypto space, because it has a mind of its own, which is good. Now, some other things to consider is you guys need to understand that you need to prepare. Okay? Now, we in the crypto space, we may have a vested interest in telling you or talking about how things are falling apart in the traditional economy, but the bottom line is you still want to prepare for the eventualities that we see coming. And I've been in traditional markets for a long, long time, as well as the crypto markets for a long, long time. And I can tell you that your monies, your assets need to be protected. So make sure that you start to adjust your exposure to what's happening in the traditional markets. Okay, just like when in the crypto markets, when things run up to extreme values, you make some adjustments. Well, the same thing in the traditional markets. Stocks have been propped up for a long, long time. The big money players like Warren Buffett and the people at J.P. Morgan Chase, the people at Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, Carlyle Group, all these people have been cutting back significantly their exposure to equities. And you have to ask yourself, what do they know that I don't know? When that happens, that means you better take a look at what they're doing and think about why are they cutting back their exposure in equities. As we talked about a lot of, over and over again, we in the crypto space, you at some point you have to take a look at things aren't behaving properly in the traditional markets. The excessive amount of money that's being printed and is going into the stocks and is propping them up, and the values are simply overinflated. Okay, what you pay for Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, you name it, Facebook, those prices are way, way beyond what they should be. And a correction of 10%, 15% doesn't bring them back into alignment. And besides, even after you get valuations that are more normalized, you still need sales. You still need demand. And I always look at demand. I've been investing for 25, 30 years at least. And if my company that I'm investing in isn't getting sales orders from customers in significant amounts on a consistent basis, then I don't care about anything else. I don't care about gross sales. I don't care about earnings adjustments and such. What I care about is bottom line sales and net profit. What are you bringing home? Stock buybacks and dividend increases, that doesn't mean anything to me. That's not important. So anyway, I gotta cut this video short, but to summarize, the state of the Bitcoin economy vis-a-vis the traditional economy is such that you want to start scaling back on your exposure in the traditional economies, because the federal government is talking about printing more and more money and lowering interest rates into the zero negative territories. And on the other hand, the people who are responsible for traditional economy and the way it works, the banks and such, even the federal government and other central bankers, are talking about making their own digital currencies. So they want to mimic what we're doing in the crypto space, and they're trying to ward off the impact of Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies. So in other words, we present a threat to what's happening in the traditional space. Why? Because they see the light finally, and they understand Bitcoin is not going to die right away, that it's going to be around, and it has been around, and it's being adopted more and more and more. Okay? So when something doesn't disappear or break down or go away, and it's not a fad, blah, 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 it gets stronger every day. Every day that it exists and stays around, it gets stronger and stronger. So you guys need to understand that. So anyway, when you see these other stupid countries finally talk about we want to make a digital currency to mimic Bitcoin or to ward off this and do that, they're just talking about more control and more of the same, more surveillance, more monitoring, more finagling behind the scenes in terms of doing all the things that they do with the dollar and the other fiat currencies. So make sure you understand if they're like, if we can't beat them, join them. So that's what they're trying to do. They can't beat us in the crypto space, so they're trying to join us, and they're trying to come up with their own copycat coins and such. But anyway, don't fall for it, and you guys stay safe out there. I got a number of other chores and different things to do before I go to the gym. But take care, be strong, stay safe, and we'll talk later. Bye. Testing, 1, 2, 3.